All right, jumping in early. Usually I let this go for a bit, but now it's working. Look at that. So in case you're showing up now and you didn't see the earlier live stream, the mic didn't work, and I have no idea why. I still don't know why. I restarted things. I had to re-add my audio to each of the shots, and then it worked. But there was no reason why it shouldn't have worked before. Real stupid shit. When technology, like I love technology, but when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, to me it's like if math is broken. Like if 2 + 2 all of a sudden equals 5. Like it's so frustrating. Like why is this happening? It's so frustrating. But it's working now, so I don't want to hold on to that anger until we get to some angry stories. But I don't want to hold on to that anger right now. Let it go. Let it go. So, welcome to The Rational Live. I'm your host, David Dull. I got stuff to talk about if I can get back on the mental track that I was on, all ready to tackle these stories. So, here we go. Opening up my file. Everything is in front of me. All right, so I'll get to the media being hot for Kim Jong Un. It's kind of like a funny thing. It's not really going to be its own segment, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll cut it out and make it its own thing, but I don't think so. Also, Joe Manchin, a clip of him has reemerged, proving even further that he is full of crap. So I'll get to that in a bit. Also, the most ridiculous question asked during the Canadian debate. I'll show you what I think that was and discuss its stupidity. Also, Katie Porter and her comments on Joe Manchin, fantastic. I'll show you that. And Fox host discussing her thoughts around anti-maskers and flight attendants. And the position she takes is absolutely ridiculous. And she's also incredibly hypocritical, or at least has changed her mind on masks. And I'll show you all that later. All right. Also, if we want to get really depressing, there's a clip of a crying nurse. I'm still debating whether or not I'll do that story, but we'll see when we get there. And of course, I'll take chats throughout the stream as well. So thank God, I think everything is working fine. It's so, like, I streamed last night with the servs. Everything was fine. I shut the program down, opened it back up. I assumed things would work, and they didn't work. And yeah, just really annoying. This stream should have started, what, 26 minutes? That was 26 minutes ago? Jesus Christ. Damn, it took 26. I could have been through half my stories. Ridiculous. All right. Let me first, I saw a super chat in the last one. Don't worry, I won't forget about you. I will bring up my super chats, make sure I get everybody. Once I find out where they are again. All right. So this question or comment, here we go. KAT sent in the last stream, the failed stream, said, "You are awesome. Keep up the good work. Don't know how you stay sane. Please shout out Vosh Planned Parenthood charity. Thanks. Hope baby is doing well." Baby is doing great. I don't know anything about this Vosh Planned Parenthood charity, but there's the shout out, me reading it. So I'm not endorsing or not endorsing, but I can't imagine it's a bad thing. But there you go. All right. Now, I got to prep this story since I had to shut everything down, so I'll be right back as I prep this story. I'm back and I'm ready. Let's get to this ridiculous story. Not even really a story, but it's kind of funny. I thought I'd open up with this. Here we go. The media is getting hot for Kim Jong Un. He's apparently lost some weight and they can't help themselves. So Kim Jong Un has now become Kim Jong Un. Horrible. All right, let me start with some of these headlines here. It's just ridiculous. Thinner, energetic Kim stands out at North Korean parade. Look at this guy. Now, look, he has apparently lost some weight. He looks pretty good. But the extent of the coverage that this gets is a little absurd. They have all these images here. There's the parade. Kim Jong Un looking a little thinner. Now, is it a body double or is it him? I think it's him, but it's pretty funny to see these headlines. CBS News here just takes on the AP headline. Thinner, more energetic Kim Jong Un steals the spotlight, North Korean parade. Bloomberg, Kim Jong Un is trim, tanned, and loving a parade. Fox News, what do you got for us? North Korea, slim down Kim Jong Un, enjoy toned down parade. Wow. This one is probably the best one. Kim Jong Un boasts svelte new look. Okay. I want to give credit here to Parker Malloy, who caught all this stuff, shared a bunch of the headlines. From the CNN piece here, she shares other footage shows the supreme leader and top aides at an outdoor table appearing to enjoy some kind of bright green drinks with a twirly straw. Amazing reporting here. And this, Parker Malloy also brought up, The Onion in 2012. Kim Jong-un named The Onion sexiest man alive for 2012. Oh my God. Okay. So that's that story. I don't even know what, in terms of commentary here, I don't know what to add. This is just ridiculous. The amount of coverage, headlines that this gets, that Kim Jong-un's lost weight. Okay, there you go. He's lost weight. All right. Now, I think it's time for me to prep the next story, which is a real story. So I will be right back as I prep this one. All right, back again. I feel like I've gone on and offline a million times now. All right, I saw a chat. Let me grab that before we do the next story. Mike H says, what is more likely, Newsom remaining governor of California or Trudeau remaining PM of Canada? So I haven't covered the recall in California too closely, so I'm not sure what the dynamic is there right now in terms of his chances. It's sounding like maybe it's 50-50, which kind of is the case right now with Trudeau in Canada. I think it's 50-50. So we could very likely, and I'm beginning to think it's more and more likely, based on how polling often favors liberals than conservatives, I'm thinking it's more and more likely that Aaron O'Toole, the conservative leader, will become the new prime minister, will form a minority government. But I don't know. So based on what I know of what's happening in California, I think it's more likely that Newsom remains governor. But I think it's possible that both happen, that Newsom no longer is governor and that Trudeau is no longer prime minister. So there you go. That's the best I can do. All right. Story. Let's do it. An 8-month-old clip of Joe Manchin has reemerged, showing just how full of crap he really is. So this is over his opposition to the $3.5 trillion budget bill, which I'm sure you already know of, but in case you don't, here you go from Axios. Joe Manchin has privately warned that the White House and congressional leaders that he has specific policy concerns with Biden's $3.5 trillion plan, and he'll support as little as $1 trillion of it. At most, he's open to supporting $1.5 trillion. So the budget bill was already negotiated down. It initially was $6 trillion. Then Bernie Sanders negotiated down with others who wanted to bring it down to $3.5 trillion. It's already a negotiated down figure. The left is already negotiating. There's no Medicare for all, for example, in this budget bill. So they've already compromised. Now Manchin wants further compromise to what is a Republican position. But what is so interesting is what Joe Manchin said back in January 19th of this year. This was uncovered by Mehdi Hassan from MSNBC. Check this out.
Most important thing, do an big infrastructure. Spend $2, $3, $4 trillion over a 10-year period on infrastructure. You want to put everybody back to work? There's a lot of people that lost their jobs, that those jobs aren't coming back. They need a place to work to make a living. Every state can start an infrastructure program.
So he says right there, this is in January, spend $2, $3, $4 trillion over 10 years on infrastructure. That's what this budget bill does. So the provisions that are in the budget bill were essentially stripped out of the infrastructure bill, since that wouldn't pass with 60 votes if they were in it. So that's why there are now these two bills, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which had 19 Republicans sign on with it, and the budget bill, which only needs 50 votes, so they can then fight to put these real investments in, which includes investments into like climate change, expanding Medicare, childcare, and other provisions. So to have Manchin clearly change his mind here, I mean, it shows you just how full of shit the man is. Now, of course, it all comes down to his donors. And this is another, I mean, there are so many stories about Manchin and his interactions with donors and who he actually supports when it comes to his votes. But one example of that here from the Intercept. This is a story from June. Leaked audio of Senator Joe Manchin call with billionaire donors provides rare glimpse of deal making on filibuster and January 6th commission. So a little piece here. Manchin told the assembled donors that he needed help flipping a handful of Republicans from no to yes on the January 6th commission in order to strip the far left of their best argument against the filibuster. The filibuster is a critical priority for the donors on the call as it bottles up progressive legislation that would hit their bottom lines. Now, this, as far as I saw, this was not covered in the mainstream press. It may have been covered by, someone like Mehdi Hassan or I don't know, Ali Velshi or Chris Hayes, but I don't even think they covered it. This went completely uncovered. But a story like this shows you how politics works in Washington. This should be a massive story. When this happened, this should have been a massive story, and this should continue to be brought up whenever Joe Manchin's name is brought up in these discussions. But instead, they always treat him with this like level of respect that he does not deserve. Instead of calling him what he is, a corporate tool, they treat him like some level-headed moderate when he is nothing but a corporate tool. But they continue pushing out this idea, the press at large continues pushing out this idea that Joe Manchin is the voice of reason here, and you can't spend too much, even though he himself 8 months ago said that they should be spending even more, up to $4 trillion on infrastructure. All right. That is one Joe Manchin story. There's another one coming up in a bit. But, man, I haven't done a proper live stream in 3 weeks. I mean, I did one yesterday, but not like a rational live stream. I feel like I forget all my things, what these buttons do, what frame I have to go to. But here we go. Some more chats. Car Wash Freak 97, a loyal supporter, says, will the squad hold leverage on 3.5 bill? They already are. I'm not sure what you mean by hold leverage, but the leverage is they're not going to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill unless that budget bill passes first. So they've been pretty consistent on that. I just did a story about Jim Clyburn bringing up in the middle of like a media appearance how they can negotiate down to Joe Manchin's level. And when apparently those discussions were not going on at all. And there were reactions from Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and others saying that, no, the $3.5 trillion is the floor. There was no negotiating that number down. So, and you know, even Pelosi was making comments about if you cut it, where do you cut? Because they have expansions in healthcare, expansions in childcare. Every single provision in that budget bill benefits society and people. So any cut you make to it is going to ultimately hurt people. And I mean, especially on the climate front, there can't be any cap on the amount of money that is spent to deal with the climate crisis. Because if you don't spend what is necessary, then there is no future, there is no earth, there is no society at all. So the idea of being so worried about debt and the amount of spending is just absolutely ridiculous when you look at the actual look at what's in front of us in terms of the impact of the climate crisis and the impact that it's already having every single day, the extreme weather being insane. So yeah. Ryan Nowicki says, do you think Biden will try SCOTUS reform if they overturn or let fall things like abortion and gay marriage, and will it hurt/help Dems electorally? Do I think Biden will try it? I always keep my expectations low. So no, I don't. He should, obviously. I don't think he will. If they did try to, say, expand the court, then yeah, of course it would help them. I mean, these positions that they have in terms of pro-choice or gay marriage, these are incredibly popular positions. So, and you know, and that's, you know, oftentimes some people feel they are more conservative. Voters do because they lean more culturally conservative as opposed to economically conservative. But even on those particular issues, those are popular issues for Democrats. So it would absolutely help them to do something about it. And you can't keep expecting people to come out and vote for you when you offer them nothing and say, oh, don't worry, vote for us this time and then we'll do it next time. You can't keep pushing pushing the what's the phrase? Like pushing the ball down the road. You can't keep expecting people to come out and vote for you if you keep pushing these initiatives further down. It's just not gonna work. And you know, they can keep making the argument about harm reduction, and ultimately, yeah, they're right. I guess, you know, in a sliver, in a tiny kind of way, there is a difference between the two parties, especially culturally. But if you just allow, while you have the power, while you have Congress, while you have the White House, if you continue to allow Republicans to have control over what is going on in Washington, then why are people going to vote for you? So they have to be willing to go as far as possible. I mean, if Republicans break the rules to do what they want, Democrats won't even use the rules to their advantage to do what they want. So it's I mean, the power, the way that each party uses power is just completely different. And you'd think, like, I get when it comes to economic issues, like, you know, of course, the amount of corporate and big donor money in Democratic and GOP circles is massive, and that has a massive impact on politics. But when it comes to these cultural issues or these social issues like gay marriage or abortion rights, this is the kind of thing that Democrats should be fighting for. There is no, corporate barrier to them fighting for these things. But even on this, it really shows you that it isn't just about the economic issues. It shows you just how completely weak and ineffective the Democratic Party is. And that also gets down to leadership and who's in power. And that has to change. And then we get to primaries and primarying out the people that are not doing anything, of course, is a major piece of all this. Mark O'Brien says, I love David Dole. Money's for the baby. Thank you, Mark. I definitely need some monies for the baby. Radzoso, your chat is cut off. Let me find it. Radzoso says, the longer we wait to deal with the climate crisis, the more it will cost. Absolutely. Yeah, that's another good point. If you're worried about cost, well, the longer you wait, the more it'll cost later on. It's like, think of it like healthcare. If you find cancer early, it's a lot easier and cheaper to deal with it. But if you have late stage cancer, it's more expensive, and there is of course, a higher likelihood that you're going to die from it. So, this should have been dealt with 30 years ago, but we're in this situation now, and we have to do everything possible to stop the damage, the destruction that's going on. All right, I'm going to pause right there. Be right back with the next, all my buttons, here we go, with the next story. All right, here is Canadian story, and this is from the debate last night. So in case you missed a live stream, this is a moment that stood out to me. All right. On Thursday, I live streamed the one and only Canadian debate that's in English, and there is one moment from this debate that I want to revisit. So this was the dumbest question of the night. This moment really stood out to me because it shows you oftentimes how journalists try to find two sides to every issue when there is only one side. So here you're going to see journalist Rosemary Barton ask a question to Jagmeet Singh about housing, and watch and listen to how she frames this question.
You're promising to tackle skyrocketing housing prices. One of the ways is with that 20% tax on the sale of homes to foreign buyers. 2/3 of Canadian families actually own a home already. If you're successful at cooling the housing market, that would mean that people who have invested their life savings in their homes may not have it anymore. They're relying on that for their retirement. So what is more important to you? Helping younger people get access to the market, or allowing older Canadians who rely on the value of their homes to live?
It's a really fair question. And when I spoke to people, I go door to door in my riding at Burnaby, people who've got beautiful homes. I ask them, what's the number one concern? They say housing. And I kind of look around at their house and say, well, you've got a home. They say, well, I'm not worried for myself. I've got a place, but I'm worried about my kids. And they're more concerned that their kids will never be able to find a home than their own circumstances, because they're okay. They are worried about their kids And the reality is, it is impossible for young people to even imagine buying a home, let alone renting a place that's in their budget. So we've got to get the big money out of housing. Young people, young families, professionals shouldn't have to compete.
So your answer is that it is more important for young people to get into the housing market rather than protect people who have equity in their home.
We can do both. And our plan is that everyone's telling us the number one concern they have for their kids is that they're not sure they're ever going to be able to own a home. We want to change that. It's gotten worse with Mr. Trudeau. We're going to fix it.
How completely insane is the framing of this question? She says here, people that invested their life savings in their homes may not have it anymore. May not have what? You're not eliminating the value of your home. Like, if somebody else is able to afford a house, that doesn't all of a sudden devalue your home. No one's home prices are going down. That is not an issue that anybody's talking about because it's not an issue. How can you possibly frame a discussion around housing where you, on one side, you have people that don't have homes, and then on the other side, you have people that have homes? How about the people that have homes? Don't you care about them too? Like, what is the argument she's trying to make here? It is so deranged the way the media tries to find two sides to every issue when there isn't two sides here. You have homeless and people that can't afford homes, can't start a family, and you have people that already have their homes and they're good. They're set for life. And this weird idea of, like, the value of your home is not making you money every day. Like, sure, you put your life savings into your home and that's great, but unless you sell your house, you don't have access to that money. So this whole question and discussion around housing, trying to compare the two, is just so absurd. And let me show you just how bad it is. I know housing is an issue, at least across North America, but it's a serious issue here in Canada. So you have here now the average price of Canadian home rising at fastest annual pace ever. So the price of homes in Canada rising at the fastest annual pace ever, yet Rosemary Barton is worried about the homeowners. Completely absurd. And going deeper here, so this is across Canada, every province. You can see here, yeah. So pretty tough, maybe unless you're in Newfoundland or New Brunswick or Saskatchewan and you're making good money there. Pretty tough, especially if you're in British Columbia, Ontario, to own a home. But showing you just, what's happened over the past year. Check out this. So I can show each province here, and it shows the in February in Quebec, the average home was $341,000, and now it's $418,000. This is as of February. So $418,000. In Ontario, 2020, $693,000. 2021, $864,000. So let's say the value of your house stopped right now. It's not rising anymore. You have already, in 1 year, made 24% back. How can anybody possibly be worried about the homeowners? And every province is like this. So increase here, 22%, increase 24%, increase 14.5%, 8%, 8.5%, 17.1%, 7%, 48.1%. Don't know what's going on in Northwest Territories. But it's absolutely nuts. And this is a serious issue that honestly no party really has a good answer to. You can promise to build more homes. That's going to take years and years and years, whether it's, public housing or whatever it is. Every approach here is going to take much too long to deal with the crisis that is happening right now. There really should be examine the idea of freezing the cost of homes. Now, I'm not sure how you can do that, but I have heard this idea discussed because apart from that, people are screwed. Millennials aren't buying homes. If you're under 40, the amount of people that have homes under 40 right now compared to, say, your parents' generation, it's just completely night and day. My dad, I think he bought a home in his 20s, and that was the norm back then. And he bought it by himself. And it was in a suburb of Toronto, so, close to the city, and he was able to do that with one job that he had, and that was the norm back then. But now it's completely ridiculous, this housing market. And to continue trying to and frame this discussion as either you help the homeless or you screw the homeowners, I don't know how they can possibly do this. All right. That was the housing discussion. If you missed the debate last night, it really was kind of all over the place. Like there were some okay moments. I thought, surprisingly, the Green leader did the best. I'm not a big fan of the current Green leader, but in terms of her performance last night, I thought she was solid. And Jagmeet Singh was all right, but I think he could have done much better. But the biggest issue coming out of that debate, I think Aaron O'Toole, the conservative leader, looked pretty good. And if enough people watch that debate, it's going to help him. And we could very well see a conservative minority, assuming Trudeau does not want to, form a coalition with the NDP, which of course I don't think he does. All right. What do I do? If there's a chat, I'll grab a chat. Otherwise, I'll go to the next story. Gina McGrath says, "Hey, David, love that you're doing live streams again. I have a downer question, but with the 20th anniversary tomorrow, do you remember where you were and what you were doing on 9/11? Yes, actually. I was in class, grade 10, I believe. So grade 10, I think it was grade 10 English class. And somebody, between periods, they were told that the World Trade Center was hit with the plane. And being as I was a Canadian, 13 or 14-year-old, I didn't know what the hell the World Trade Center was. I was envisioning like a convention center. Like, how did a plane hit a convention center? So I didn't know what the hell was going on until lunchtime, and there was one classroom. This is back in 2001. I know you all know that, but this is years ago. TVs in classrooms were not, with cable, weren't a normal thing. I'm not sure if they even are now, but there was one classroom that had television, and they had it on. And then I was like, then I saw it, and yeah, it was wild, and that night, like, there was a clip that I remember. It must have been played in the media, but it was a close up of somebody jumping out of the building. And I woke up that morning with that in my, like, I woke up from a nightmare seeing that. Now it's odd because I don't know if that was actually, I may have just thought that up at the time, or that may have been a clip, but I may have just thought it up. And then, later on we did see clips like that. But yeah, it was a crazy time. And as somebody who was, not at all, I was, a young teenager, not into politics, didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to feel about any of it. It was all kind of just happening. All right. Lawn Gnomes says, really comes down to getting progressives into local leadership. Zoning laws will really influence what new developments pop up. A new condo complex doesn't mean much if it's priced too high to fill it. Yeah. Toronto has condo after condo after condo going up, and they're all pretty expensive. So, unless you're focused on creating affordable housing and have a real plan for public housing, I don't know how this is properly addressed. All right. I'm going to prep the next story. next story is another Joe Manchin story. There's one more chat, I think, that just came in. William Chan, thank you. There's your chat. Saying homeowners have gotten used to double-digit growth. Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine there are actually any homeowners out there that would complain about affordable housing or complain about any approach to helping people with no homes get a home, even if it maybe somehow froze the value of their home for a bit. The increase they have seen in the value of their homes is just astronomical over the past year, especially. That to complain about helping anyone without a home is just, I don't understand how people could be so selfish. But here we go. Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter slammed fellow Democrat Joe Manchin and speculated as to why he is against the $3.5 trillion budget bill. Now, this is a bill that invests into climate change, universal pre-K, paid leave, Medicare expansion, including dental, vision, hearing, among other investments. But here you are seeing, as I'll talk about after the clip as well, you're seeing Democrats becoming a lot more willing to call out their own. And I love seeing this. So here's Katie Porter on MSNBC.
Now, with regard to Senator Manchin and others who want to talk about the price tag for this, let me be clear. You are a business person. You get it. You can do math. If something costs A, then you have two options. You can negotiate down from A, or you can find the money. We have revenue options on the table. There are a huge number of corporations that pay zero taxes. And by making savvy revenue choices, for example, using a real corporate profit approach to dealing with those corporations that pay zero, we could generate $700 billion. If we use the corporate minimum tax approach, we're going to generate $40 billion. Right there, Senator Manchin, right there, anyone who's worried about spending, we can generate the revenue so that this isn't about $3.5 trillion in spending. It's not even now about $3.5 trillion in spending because we're going to generate the revenue to pay for these things. I have the will to do it. The question is, does Senator Manchin, or is he more concerned about his corporate donors, including large corporations, the oil and gas industry, the big pharmaceutical industry, and others who are getting away with paying nothing under our current tax system?
All right. Now, I do have one more clip coming up of somebody else that you may be a little surprised to see pushing the passage, the idea of passing this budget bill. But before I get to that, Katie Porter, of course, fantastic here. Seeing progressive Democrats become more willing to call out fellow Democrats, the corporate tools in their party, this is something that was unheard of, unseen just 4 years ago. But it's now the norm when it comes to people like Katie Porter. I'll show you some others here. Rashida Tlaib, in response to Jim Clyburn saying that, he can negotiate down $3.5 trillion. Rashida Tlaib replies saying, no, $3.5 trillion is the floor. This from Ilhan Omar is great as well. So Mehdi Hassan tweeted out a clip about Joe Manchin in January calling up or discussing how he'd be open to $4 trillion. Now, all of a sudden, he doesn't support that. But Ilhan Omar here replying saying maybe his weekly huddles with Exxon might explain his change of heart. So they are just directly calling out the fact that he is a corporate tool. And these are just two examples. Of course, AOC has called him out as well. Jamal Bowman's called him out as well. Mondaire Jones has called him out as well. So there is a consistent theme here. And I'm not sure, I'm not sure what their ultimate goal is here, because you can call the guy out a million times. He's not really going to change what he's doing. But it's important to create the groundswell, the pressure from Democratic voters that are ones that just watch cable news, that haven't in the past normally seen these sorts of criticisms of Democrats coming from fellow Democrats. So to build that pressure within the media by talking to these more diehard Democratic voters and having them develop this hate for Joe Manchin can become a very powerful tool. So this fight, of course, over this will continue going on. But there's one more clip I want to show you. So this sort of discussion around Manchin is apparently appearing to even have an impact on leadership in the Democratic Party. So here is Joe Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, on CNN this week discussing Bernie's budget bill.
This package adds nothing to the debt. Nothing to the debt. It is fully paid for by raising taxes on wealthy people. We've had people become billionaires during the pandemic. They should pay their fair share of taxes. We've had 55 big corporations pay nothing in taxes, though they have record profits. If we raise taxes on the big corporations who aren't paying, raise taxes on people using international loopholes, raise taxes on the wealthy who are not paying their fair share, we can pay for every one of those investments in the package without a penny of taxes on people making under $400,000 a year, and without a penny being added to the long-term federal debt. In fact, passing these tax changes, making the people who aren't paying pay their fair share, collecting taxes from people who owe them and are dodging taxes by using loopholes, using lawyers and accountants, collecting those taxes will make our tax system fairer, make middle-class people share less of the burden, and can help bring down our debt in the long run. So I think Senator Manchin's concerns about inflation, about debts, those are concerns we can address with the provisions of this package itself.
So there is Joe Biden's chief of staff essentially taking on the Bernie Sanders lines, talking about taxing these massive corporations, talking about the billionaires that made money during the pandemic and how they should be taxed. So this is the kind of thing is new. In the past, a bill like this, a budget bill with a massive investment into actual people that would actually help people, expanding Medicare, expanding childcare, actual money investment into climate change. This is the kind of thing that normally would be scoffed at in the past by these sorts of Democrats, by people like Biden's chief of staff. But now they're being embraced. And part of the reasoning for that is because of the power that continues to grow within the Democratic Party from these progressive lawmakers. So they continue every cycle to primary out more and more members of leadership, be it Joe Crowley, Eliot Engel, Lacey Clay, and they will continue to do that. And this is how you gain power. And in gaining power, you also gain respect, and you also begin to have actual power when it comes to lawmaking. So because they have this power now, because they've grown to a point where they can actually say, you know what, we're not going to vote for the infrastructure bill unless we get this budget bill passed first, because they've grown the numbers to the point where they can do that, they have some real power now. And it's having even an impact on Joe Biden. So it's incredible to see members of leadership that normally would simply capitulate to the Joe Manchins of the world actually now fight him and fight to push these two bills through, because they understand that neither's getting passed without the other. All right. That is the uplifting story of the day. Probably the most uplifting story. We got a Fox story next. That's always fun. Let me see if there are any chats. And if not, I'll just prep the next story. I think I'm good on chats. All right. I'll be right back. I just noticed the rain is freezing on that graphic. It's really disappointing. I'll have to fix that next time. More tech issues that shouldn't exist. All right. This story here on Fox News. All right. There's actually a few clips for this story. Three clips. Fox News host Jeanine Pirro is really bothered by the situation around anti-maskers on flights. No, not the anti-maskers themselves, but instead how flight attendants are treating anti-maskers. I'm not joking. So I will get to that clip in a second, as well as her incredible change of heart on masks that was just uncovered. Also get to that, but first, here is the clip that set her off. So this is Joe Biden discussing that you should treat flight attendants with respect.
Tonight, I'm announcing that the Transportation Safety Administration, the TSA, will double the fines on travelers that refuse to mask. If you break the rules, be prepared to pay. And by the way, show some respect. The anger you see on television toward flight attendants and others doing their job is wrong. It's ugly.
I love it. Nothing at all wrong with that. In fact, this is a rare moment where Joe Biden actually looks good and strong. Tell people to don't be pieces of shit. Really isn't a big deal. But apparently this set off Jeanine Pirro. Here's what she said on Fox News.
I am sick and tired of his going up against Abbott and DeSantis and then saying to the flight attendants, you know what, show some respect for the flight attendants. Maybe some of the flight attendants ought to show some respect to us. OK, if you're trying to feed a 2-year-old yogurt without the mask on and they decide to throw the mother off. I mean, I could go on and on about the absurdity.
Yeah, I have no idea what she's talking about. Does a mother need to wear a mask, or does a mother need to have her mask off to feed a child? I don't even know what she's saying, but clearly that isn't. Those aren't the stories that are coming out. We see what's going on. The way that flight attendants were treated even before the pandemic was an issue, but it's become even more of an issue now. Before I even get to that part, I just got to show you her change on masks. So Parker Malloy uncovered this on Twitter, tweeting out, fun fact, before Fox decided to just go all in on anti-mask / anti-vax nonsense, Pirro was tweeting pictures of herself wearing masks and setting a good example. But then once the official right-wing narrative switched, she's back to playing the Judge Box Wine character. Look at this. July 5th, 2020. Here she is using her mask here as a fashion statement. Even wearing it outside. Wearing a mask outside. Today's Jeanine Pirro would be yelling at this lady, but here she is wearing a mask, and all of a sudden, once they decided that isn't viable for them anymore because their base is even crazier than they thought, then all of a sudden masks become this horrible thing that you can't put on your face. But in terms of flight attendants, back to this. 1 in 5 flight attendants endured a physical incident as union demands action. So this, of course, is happening a lot more under the pandemic. Survey finds cases on the rise this year of U.S. airline passengers who sometimes become violent, most often over a mask mandate. I'm sure you see many stories like this. One example here, footage shows U.S. flight attendant being attacked by passengers. So they were punched in the face. Luckily, in most of these cases, these people on these flights are dealt with through, they were arrested afterwards and dealt with. So they don't get away with it for the most part. But the way that these flight attendants are treated is insane. And I have one more clip to show you. Here's one that came out this week of an anti-masker on a flight. And brace yourself. If you haven't seen this, it's wild.
Look at the data overall. There were 146 investigations into incidents initiated by the FAA in 2019. This year, that number is over 750, with over 4,000 incidents reported, ranging from fights, clearly, to growling. Now, this happened on a flight from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City, and I should just show you the video of what happened.
Sit down now. You can't hold us. We're not on the ground, sir. Sit. Yes, we are. We're only grounded. Sit. You see anybody else getting up? Sit. God. Sit. You sit down on that seat and you stay. Joe Biden. Really?
I told you it was wild. And that's, I mean, literally, that guy is an animal. What the hell was going on there? But that is just a small taste of what they have to deal with every day. Flight attendants have an impossible job, especially right now. Respect them, be there for them, and just be aware that this is the kind of shit, whether you're a flight attendant, whether you're a nurse, a doctor, whether you work in customer service, people deal with, or these sorts of jobs, they deal with these kinds of people every day. So be as courteous as possible, because they have a much tougher job than I think a lot of people realize. Okay. What a wild guy. I don't even know what was going on there. I don't think I could speculate. Okay. I got a really depressing story. I don't know if I want to do it. Let me grab this chat. The Wyatt Sharp Show. Thank you for your donation. I don't know. I have this. It's a video of a nurse, and she isn't having a good time. So maybe I'll just play it, talk about it if I can. But it goes to showing you. And the thing is, like this, my audience, you know the shit these people go through, what they have to put up with. So like the people that need to see clips like this, the one that I'm going to show you here, are the ones that are not going to see it. Like the ones that are in the Facebook groups about being anti-vax or anti-mask. They're not going to see behind the scenes how these nurses are, how they're feeling, or how flight attendants are feeling, or people in customer service. The average person, or the average anti-masker, is not going to see these things because it's not in their Facebook feeds. But still, I think it's important to share this. So if I fix my hair, then I will do it. Oh no, I ruined it. It's done. Can't fix it now. There we go. Flat. This is the problem with getting a haircut once a year. Since I had a haircut for like a year and a half, and then I had one a month ago, and now I have to have one again. It's like I got so used to not getting a haircut that now that I have to get a haircut every month, it feels like a lot of haircuts. So my hair is, if I didn't have any crap in it right now, my hair is just like super poofy, and I have to get it cut. But man, after not getting cut for so long, I don't want to. I don't want to go back. All right, let me just do the story. At the beginning of this pandemic, everybody was cheering on healthcare workers. But apparently that has kind of changed. So there is story after story after story of you know what? Let me restart, because I realized as I was starting the video, I hadn't prepped the tabs, which is an issue if I'm trying to prep them while I'm speaking. So that's not going to happen. I will be right back, and then I'll do the story properly. right, I'm back. When you take 2 weeks off a live stream, you forget some things. Okay, here we go. Time to get sad, because this is depressing. All right. At the beginning of this pandemic, everybody was cheering on the bravery and strength of healthcare workers because of the tough job they had, risking their lives and, in many cases, their families' lives to save the lives of others who got sick with COVID-19. Well, a lot of that, at least for some, has changed. And especially in Canada, at least recently, there's been stories like this. Registered Nurses Association speaks out against anti-vax protests near hospitals and clinics. So this has been going on all across Canada. Sudbury, this one, Kingston, anti-vax protesters gather outside Kingston General Hospital, and Vancouver as well. Hospital protests pushing already exhausted staff to the brink, says Vancouver doctor. Well, this video here is, I believe, unrelated to this, to those protests, but you see here just how overworked these nurses are, and the idea of protesting the very people that are saving lives, to me, is, there's nothing that is more disgusting. But I'm going to play for you this. Yes, it's sad, it's depressing, but I want people to understand just the kind of stress these workers are under.
Just got home after a 12-and-a-half-hour shift in the COVID world. I didn't get a breakfast. I didn't get a lunch. I didn't even get to drink water today. Just got home after a 12-and-a-half-hour shift in the COVID world. I didn't get a breakfast. I didn't get a lunch. I didn't even get to drink water today. And today was so bad. It's worse than last year. And I hate my job. And I don't want to go back. And it's hard because I can only do what I can do. And there's just too many sick people and too little bit of employees. And it's not fair to our patients. It's not fair to us. And it sucks and it's hard. And I just want to quit and give up. And it looks like it's never going to get better. I have 3 different patients' blood on my scrubs. I have COVID urine on my pants. I did a lot of CPR today and a lot of bagging. And I saw people grab my hand and tell me to help them to live, and they don't want to die. And then I had people tell me, just leave me alone and let me go already, and just let me die. I don't want to be here anymore. I hate this. It's never gonna go away. It's gonna get worse. I don't want to do this anymore.
I really don't know what to say to that. I can't even imagine the kind of stress they are under, the work that they have to do. I mean, even before this, even before the pandemic, I can't imagine that being in that role. It's a high stress situation. There's clearly a lot you have to be able to do in the moment on cue. And here you have the pandemic and morons, absolute morons that still have not gotten the vaccine, a free and available vaccine. Now, yes, to be clear, I'm sure there are people out there that maybe haven't found the time. Maybe they can find time to buy groceries, to get a haircut, to go for a walk in the park, but they can't find time for a vaccine. Fine. But now, Biden has introduced for companies with over 100 employees, you get time off to go and get the vaccine and recover. If people still don't get it after this, what the hell else is supposed to happen? Just the incredible selfishness. And then on top of all of that, to be a dipshit that goes and protests at a hospital, blocking there were ambulances in Vancouver being blocked in front of a hospital during this protest. And it's not just the idiots in these protests. It's, of course, a lot of the blame has to go to the people that are spreading the misinformation, whether it's AM radio hosts that end up getting COVID themselves and dying, whether it's podcasters, shows like Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Of course, a lot of the blame has to go there as well. But if it gets to the point where you're actually engaging in a protest like this, then you have no excuse. You've gone far enough down the hole where you deserve the blame as well. And it's important that people that are part of this shit watch videos like this, understand what these people are going through. But nobody appears to care out of this group, out of that group. No one appears to care unless they get COVID themselves. And then all of a sudden, oh, I should have got the vaccine, and then you're dead. Meanwhile, surgeries for cancer being delayed, all sorts of surgeries, procedures now having to be delayed because the hospitals are filled up with unvaccinated COVID patients. Just selfish fucking morons. That's what you are. All right. Maybe not the most helpful if you're unvaccinated to call you a selfish fucking moron, but sometimes it has to be said. And I hope at this point, if you're this far into my live stream, you're not one of those idiots. I would hope my audience isn't that stupid. All right. Let's get to some other stuff. Let me grab some random chats. I was going to do a wrap up. You know, usually I do a weekly wrap up, but there wasn't enough that I collected throughout the week to really do a proper one. Yeah. So I have a few links here, actually. I'll just share some of this stuff just with you guys. So this came out today, I believe. Yes. CDC finds unvaccinated people 11 times more. I should have put this in the video I just did. But 11 times more likely to die of COVID. Moderna vaccine more effective in preventing hospitalization. There you go. So some more information coming out. I'm sure the article has more, but did not have time to read through it today. Also, in case you watched the debate last night and trusted Trudeau's answer here, Justin Trudeau falsely claimed he is not battling First Nations kids in court. Court documents show he is. So during the debate last night, he tried to fight Jagmeet Singh on him not taking First Nations kids to court, but he is. So I don't like, maybe he's getting off on a technicality because they're not children now. Maybe that's the argument he's trying to make. I have no idea, but it's no, this is what he's doing. So it's weird for him to try and lie his way around that. Also this story, it's kind of hard to summarize. I read through this earlier. It's hard to summarize this, but this is a cancer patient that had to have their surgery delayed because of anti-vax or unvaccinated COVID patients, and the impact that's had on this person. So just one of the many stories coming out about this thing. Okay. I should have ended on a more happy note, but that was super depressing. All right, let me do... Nope, wrong one. Wrong button. Here we go. I'll just grab some rando chats from YouTube here. Let me see. Winston says anti-vaxxers are privileged morons. Yes, they are. But maybe I'll let me bounce this off of the audience here, and I'll look at the replies. A lot of the people that are not anti-vax, people that have not gotten the vaccine yet, what percentage of them do you think haven't gotten it because they haven't been able to get the time off work? Because I hear that argument, but then I think, how did they get groceries? When did they buy food? When did they get a haircut? When did they do, normal everyday things that don't just involve going to work? If they have the ability to do those things, then why can't you get a life-saving vaccine? So while I understand, and I'm definitely sympathetic to the idea that they're worried about maybe, maybe getting sick from the vaccine, and that's what's stopping them from getting vaccinated. Now there's less of an excuse, at least for many employees that are in these companies that now have to give them this time off. But like, I feel like the majority of the anti-vax people are anti-vax. It's not because they couldn't get time off work. So I'm seeing some answers here. 0, 15 tops, maybe 5, 15%, 0, 2%, 0, 2 to 5%. Because, yeah, like the people in my life, and, I know people that are not well off and people that are well off. The whole spectrum, they're all vaccinated, except for a few of them, and the ones that are not vaccinated are anti-vax. So maybe I'm just not in those circles, but I have not met anybody who's like, oh, I want to get the vaccine, but I haven't had time. I haven't met anyone like that. And again, that's anecdotal. Maybe I'm just, one person with a rare experience here, but I feel like that's the majority of people. I don't know how you can keep using that excuse now. I would understand it more if you live in a rural area, maybe there's no vaccine that's anywhere near you for like a 30-minute drive or something. Then I understand more for sure. But anybody else, like really, you haven't found the time, especially in America, since January. I don't know. Celeste says, sup. What up, Celeste? How's it going? So yeah, I'm not seeing anybody say this is a large percentage of people. I think the highest I saw was 15%. Aquarius Dragon says, my boyfriend works every day in a food warehouse thingy. He made time, took off work to do it. Vaccine hours seem pretty wide, says Doug. Yeah, everyone seems to be on the same page here. All right. Just want to make sure I wasn't crazy, because I was seeing that argument pop up, and it didn't make any sense to me. But it appears that most people, at least here, are with me on this. All right. Let me grab some more randos. Scroll up further if I can. Oh, it's only showing the top chat. What's going on here? Yeah, somebody mentioned they booed Trump. Like Trump got booed for recommending the vaccine. And I gave him credit. You got to give credit where it's due. He should have came out a lot earlier and discussed that, but he finally came out, told his audience to get the vaccine, and he got booed. Rocket Reindeer says, most unvaxxed people I know are doing it commanded by social media. Okay, it's not showing me the rest of the chat. So I'll be here for like 5 more minutes. If you guys want to get some random chats in, just put my name in the chat and I'll answer them, and then I'll jump out of here. In the meantime, video games. I could talk about video games all day. I I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, my first experience with that game. I never played the original. I was not into JRPGs as a kid, so it was a whole new experience for me. And man, that game is so friggin' good. And also, I'm sure much different. The remake, I'm sure, is much different than the PlayStation version for obvious technology reasons. But fantastic game. Fantastic game. Bavaria, if I said that right, said I missed the live debate, was on vacation in Halifax visiting my brother, and the same thing is happening with outsider buying up housing and jacking up rent 100 plus. Yeah, all over the country, rent's up, cost of housing especially is up. Am I gonna play Deathloop? I have not decided. I'm gonna wait for reviews. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot about that game, but at the same time, I still don't really understand it. So I want to see how it's reviewed and then consider it. But right now, I'm playing through the Ghost of Tsushima Extra Island DLC. So once I finish that, I'll see what's out there. Actually, then I want to no, I'll probably never get to that game because then I want to get to Psychonauts 2. So it's gonna be a while. Celeste asks, "Did you like Certified Lover Boy?" No, I did not. And don't hate me, guys. I enjoy Drake. I enjoy the occasional Drake music, the album, but I'm also I'm an honest enjoyer of Drake. When an album sucks, as almost every single one has since like 2014, and I'm honest about it. I don't think Drake's had a really, really good album since If You're Reading This Is Too Late. And that was a mixtape dropped in what, 2014, 2013? I don't even know when that came out. 2015 maybe. But since then, it's like just been terrible. I mean, there's been a hit here or there, but nothing that really stands out the way tracks on that album stood out, or the way that Take Care stood out. So I don't know. Not sure what's going on with Drake, but he's like, if you watch Anthony Fantano, who I really enjoy, his review was spot on of that album. Like, it's Drake is like half asleep through half of the album. He has this tone where it just lacks emotion completely. He's not hyped. He's not emotional. It's just like neutral. There's nothing there. And it's really, he's done this now for like 4 years and on a lot of his songs, and it's not enjoyable to listen to. So yeah, we need old Drake. We need old Drake back. Winston says, "Are you afraid that the People's Party might get one of the seats the Greens or Bloc currently has?" I have not thought about that, but I don't think so. A lot of their support doesn't really appear to be concentrated anywhere particular, except maybe Maxime Bernier's riding, but I haven't checked on what's going on there. So it's possible he wins back his seat as now a People's Party leader, but no. Like, I think it's important to address the party and discuss what it actually represents, but at the same time, I also think we shouldn't be propping them up and make them more powerful than they actually are. So there's like a delicate balance there, because you don't want to overcover them, especially as like the mainstream press, because then you create this. My voice is gone now. Then you create this false sense of them having all this power, which they don't right now, at least not politically. But there's definitely this convergence of these far right-wing groups coming together behind the People's Party, and also some people who are fooled, who are anti-vaxxers, who I've seen polls now. I assume this is consistent, and it does make sense to me that there's a percentage of Green voters that are now supporting the People's Party. And I'm sure these are the anti-vax kind of crowd. So, yeah, I don't know how serious the party is, going forward, but until they win a seat, I can't take them all that seriously yet as a party. As a movement, though, then yeah. Ben Frank says, yeah, The Weeknd snuffed Drake, and I like Drake. Yeah, in terms of... I've discovered a lot of Americans don't realize The Weeknd's Canadian, but he's Canadian, from Scarborough. Out of the two, I think it's, in terms of talent, I think it's pretty clear The Weeknd is a little more talented than Drake. There's no denying that. Brett finished Iki Island. Cool. I will hopefully finish it sometime this month. Matrix now, says Ben Frank. I only saw the first Matrix film. Should I go back and watch the sequels? I never saw 2 or 3. So maybe before the fourth comes out, I should go and check out 2 and 3. All right. Jeffrey says you should play the original Final Fantasy VII. It's so good, and I think it holds up. I'm not going through that again. I enjoyed the game, but I can't. When it comes to like 25-hour games or anything like over that, I really don't replay games, even if it's a different version of the game. If it's a single-player experience, I see no reason to play the same game twice when there are so many games out there that I want to play that I haven't touched. So, if we were lacking in quality games, then I would consider playing the same games twice, but I just don't do that. Winston says you should. Conservatives are mad that The Matrix is an allegory about trans people. Okay. I don't want to. This is why I can't be on Twitter every day, guys. I can't be following what's going on with these lunatics. It's too much for my well-being. I can't take it. What time is it? 5:42. All right. Probably going to jump off. Yes, the People's Party was founded by a former Canadian conservative. In fact, Maxime Bernier, the leader, came very, very, very close to becoming the Conservative Party leader. And seeing the turn he was more libertarian back then, but he's not the person, at least not publicly, that he is now. I'm imagining, like, what if he won leadership, won an election, and that guy, the current Maxime Bernier, was the guy running the country? That would be insane. But it appears we dodged a bullet there. Fander says that Quebec guy from the Canadian debate was a bit of a nutcase. Loved the Green Party leader. Yes, Blanchette. Bloc Québécois. Annamie Paul, Green leader. I was impressed with her performance. I still have issues with her, especially the way she treated her own caucus, the way she will not criticize the right-wing Israeli government at all. But in terms of her performance, and I think the way that she came off to a lot of people, I think Annamie Paul did a solid job in that debate, and she definitely has some debate skills that I was not aware of. Especially, I mean, her attacks on Trudeau, they were really good. Especially in fact, there's a video I could probably do on this where she called out Trudeau for not being a feminist, and then brings up several liberals that left the party over Trudeau and what he did. So, yeah. All right. Quit leaning into the mic. It's too sexy. Wow. Well, we're back here on NPR. I'm your host, David Dole, the Rational National. What if I did the whole show like that? I should just have like an alter ego where I just do like a podcast and I pretend to be somebody else. And I just speak like that the entire time. So today, we're talking about Joe Manchin and his impact on the Democratic Party. Now, can you imagine? All right. My favorite word. All right. Time to go. Thank you all. But I saw a comment I think I want to read. Oaken Hill Hermit says, if you want to stop the spread of COVID, maybe all of these tea cottagers should go the hell home. Nope, they are moving here and jacking the housing prices there. Second, third, or fourth property. I'm not sure if that's the problem with COVID. I think the bigger issue is people not getting vaccinated, but I hear you. All right. Sounds like a golf commentator. Maybe I can do that. That could be my new job. All right, everybody, have a good time. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll be back again next week. Goodbye. Good. Oh, wait, one last super chat right under the wire. Mark O'Brien again. Thank you, sir. Not gonna lie, you whispering is kind of sexy. LOL. Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Everybody, have a good weekend. Good. Here it is. Goodbye.